Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining. Today, we're going to be covering some of the best plays in the market like we always do, and the headlines are still focusing on Tesla. It's definitely pulling back a decent amount this morning. News came out, and Elon Musk basically said that their contract with Hertz has not been signed yet, and it's not like horrible news or anything. It's just, like he was just putting it out there, and the stock was definitely selling off a little bit on that news. Overall, they still have a lot of momentum, and they're still holding their ground pretty well.
Yeah, they really are. And they did fall down this morning in pre-market on this news. But as we can see, it hasn't really, it kind of, you can see we kind of erased yesterday's gain. But in the end, it didn't really move too much. It's just a little bit of a pullback. Hopefully that this support down here around 1125 or 1127 ends up holding up over the next couple of hours. And if we end up holding this and getting a nice boost back up here at open, I think it could still be pretty good for Tesla. But I'll be honest, it's not good to see it moving down like this in pre-market.
For sure. And then another one that's getting destroyed is Chgg. The stock is down a crazy amount. It looks like they're down 38% today. They had not good earnings. You could say bad earnings, obviously, and they are really, really tanking off. For this one, I'm really considering shorting some puts on it because, when the stock's down 38%, it's normally a pretty good opportunity for that.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty big drop. We can see on the max daily chart how big this gap was to the downside. We actually broke some pretty big supports as we moved down here. We ended up breaking the support right around $55, which we were sitting at on the daily chart. Now we're getting close to some of these supports down here around $40, even $35. So definitely eye it up. I feel like that it could end up maybe at least hitting a little bit of a wall over the next couple of days. We saw the Snapchat kind of fall down like that. They did continue down for a couple days, but you can see now they're kind of consolidating, and it seems like they might want to try to come back up here over the next couple days.
Gotcha. Good stuff there. Corsair is definitely all over the place today. Like, we could see it had a lot of volatility over like the past couple of hours or so. It looks like there were some fills as low as 23, but I don't know how much volume was there, but they're definitely trending in the right direction now. Their earnings definitely weren't good, but it wasn't like horrible either. In my opinion, the market already priced this in, these quote-unquote bad earnings for when the stock dropped off a couple weeks ago, like when they gave that like bad outlook. So it's looking good right now. It's up 2% on the day, and it's just like one of those stocks that have been consolidating for so long, kind of like a Palantir or Disney, where you're just waiting for that move back up.
Yeah, we really are. And it looks like this so far today at open, it's actually happening. And, we've been seeing this happen a little bit with earnings, Mike, where the stock would drop down and then just explode right back up. Like Tesla, honestly, did that. Netflix did it, I think. And a lot of other stocks have been moving like that with earnings also. And it's pretty cool to see Corsair kind of getting back up there this morning. And one that I actually wanted to bring up, Mike, was Under Armour. These guys are up 15% today on their earnings. We saw a couple of stocks like Chgg have really bad earnings and move down, but it's always good to see Under Armour getting this huge explosion. And you can see they're actually starting to approach this high up here around $22 a share.
There we go. I mean, that's a huge pop, Tom. Look at that. Like on the chart, I definitely wasn't expecting that. And yeah, they have a lot of momentum. Definitely keep it on your radar.
Yeah, and they're a pretty big company. They're big competitors with Nike, and Nike has been exploding over the past couple of years. So hopefully Under Armour can start to get on a good tear here. I feel like that their stock price is honestly pretty low given everything that they do. So I feel like that they have some pretty good growth for the future.
There we go. And then Tom, like what other stocks are leading your watch list today? I know we have a lot of big earnings, but like what's on your radar?
Yeah, the biggest one actually leading my watch list actually is CRSR to the upside, up 4.2%, followed by Pfizer. And I know Pfizer, I believe they have earnings in after hours, or no, they actually already had their earnings as well. And it looks like their earnings went pretty good. They beat their estimate, and Pfizer's popping up. And we can see on the daily chart, Pfizer was honestly on a pretty bad downtrend there for a couple of months. And I'm really glad to see him starting to pop back up like this. And it seems like so far today, the earnings have went decent, at least this morning. Like we saw a couple stocks down, but hey, at least Corsair and Pfizer and a couple other stocks are starting to pop up.
Exactly. All right, so we have, I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. So welcome Vicky, I'm Fierce, Gabriel, Rick, George, and Dang, thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome back. I'm Fierce. We're glad to have you back. And we have George saying Lucid is also down. So it's definitely worth taking a look at this one. I know they had so much hype earlier in the week on their first deliveries, but definitely looking a little rough right now. Down 8%. That's it's definitely something to look at.
Yeah, definitely. Look at this on the daily chart. You can see they're really starting to pull back. And honestly, that support there, or I should say resistance, right around $40 seemed to be pretty big. And as we can see, the stock's starting to pull back. So, I love Lucid, I think, for the longer term, but in the shorter term, they're going up and down with this news very rapidly. And, they went up with some great news on those deliveries coming out that weekend, and on that good battery news with the 500-mile range and everything like that. Now that kind of rumor kind of faded away, now the stock's starting to go down a little bit. And I guess the hype's just kind of leaving, but I feel like it should come back. And there is a big support around $30 to watch for the next few days.
Awesome. All right. So NVIDIA's, Corsair is leading my watch list, but after Corsair, NVIDIA's up there. It's only up like 0.8%, but it's definitely a pretty strong opening candle. I'll be honest, Tom, looking at all of my stocks this morning, there isn't anything with great momentum to the upside. Most of my watch list is actually red. Not saying by a huge amount, but BLNK is down 4.5%. We have Disney down, RCL down, Teledoc. There's actually a pretty decent amount of stocks in the red today. These China stocks are pulling back a little bit too. Looks like George said Enphase and Run are hitting resistance and falling. So yeah, the solar stocks are taking a little bit of a beating. So looks like we're definitely seeing some more selling pressure coming in across a lot of stocks right now. But how's the market overall doing, Tom?
Honestly, the market overall is not doing bad. The SPY is actually holding its ground, and it's not necessarily popping, but it's just kind of going flat here at market open. The good news is that we're right around the closing price of yesterday. We're up 0.07%, so we're pretty much break even. But I will say I like how we're holding this $460 level. Yesterday, that was a pretty good resistance intraday, and now that we broke through that, hopefully that 460 ends up being a pretty good support for us intraday today. And I'd love to see the SPY go up to new highs. Honestly, I feel like there's a pretty good chance that it could happen today. Like you said, though, lots of stocks on my watch list are red, but it seems like the overall market's doing pretty good. I guess because some of the bigger players like NVIDIA, Boeing, some of the bigger stocks are green, which is good to see.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Even Spotify is coming down a little bit. A lot of them are coming down, but with some of these stocks like Enphase and Run, you gotta kind of expect them to be in the red because they've had such crazy uptrends. And Tom, I saw you looking at Boeing. How's that one doing?
They're actually popping up. I will say in pre-market, it wasn't looking too good to me. I've been watching Boeing for quite a while now, and I was not expecting to see this big pop to the upside, but it looks like they're starting to bounce off that support. I'm so glad that they moved back above $210. I think that'll end up being a pretty good support for them. And honestly, on the daily chart, they don't look too bad. They were looking bad last week as they had that really bad turn to the downside. But so far this week, we've had a couple nice green days so far.
There we go. Welcome, Alex, to the stream. And then George said, Z's tanking, earnings later today. So, yeah, they are down 4% today. It's definitely not good to see. They were looking pretty good the other day, but yeah, it's not something you want to see.
Yeah, definitely not. And I'm pretty surprised. They had a pretty big run to the upside the other day, like we talked about last week on Friday. It looked really good. Even the end of the day was very strong, and it seemed pretty promising. And then heading into this week, the stock just started tanking back down. So hopefully the earnings go well. I feel like that if they go well, this stock could start to move pretty far away from support, especially if we can move back up above $100.
Awesome. So I'm just looking at a couple different stocks. With everything being said, Tom, I'm looking at a lot of different setups right now, and I feel like there's a pretty solid opportunity with some Corsair short puts right now. With the price it's at, I feel like you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I feel like that as well, Mike. Just shares even could be good. I feel like if you could somehow get maybe on those short puts, maybe a strike like the 24, the 23, something like that, I feel like would be awesome. Maybe even the 25, if you wanted to make it a little bit riskier. I feel like that's an awesome level, and that's honestly right on support. So I feel like that the chances of it closing above that are pretty high either way with the way that we're moving on earnings. And I would say, Mike, it looks like a pretty good opportunity. We're moving off this longer term support. And I feel like that for the longer term, there's lots of movement back to the upside. Now, we could always turn back down, of course, and break the support. But I feel like for the next couple of years, especially over this winter, I really hope that Corsair can start to do better.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they're at a pretty solid level. Like, I know they've been struggling so much for what seems like forever now, but at this level, I really like them. And I know I've been saying that a lot, but, you know, they were at, what, 45, 46, something like that a couple months ago. And, you know, they're a solid company, and I expect them to grow a lot over the long term. Like, of course, anything can happen in the short term, but I feel like the risk-reward ratio is pretty good right now.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we saw lots of other stocks down here doing the same stuff before they started getting some good news and starting to pop back up. You know, one of them I'll just throw out there is PLUG. You know, they were really consolidating down here for almost a year and a half straight. You know, they started bouncing off support, getting some good news, and look at where they are now. If you would have been buying on that $25 support, you'd be up quite a bit right now, up here around $40 a share. And, you know, lots of stocks have been doing this. So I would not, you know, I would definitely not take Corsair off your radar. Definitely leave it on. And you can see with the way they're moving on earnings, I feel like this shows some pretty good strength too.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, so we have Robin saying good afternoon from Sweden. There we go. Thank you so much for joining, Robin. Head said BT moving big. Let's take a look. BT, yeah, it's up like 7% today. It's looking pretty good actually. Let me pull up that daily. Yeah, so it's not looking bad. You know, I know it's had a ton of volatility over the past couple months, Tom, but it's not looking too bad.
Yeah, it's actually not looking bad right now. It looks like there's a lot of momentum coming in so far today. I will say the daily scares me a little bit. You know, it's definitely all over the place, but whenever it gets on these good uptrends, it usually moves pretty well. And I will say it's bouncing off the 100 SMA while it's bouncing off the $10 support. I feel like it has a pretty good chance to keep bouncing here. And if we go look at it intraday on the 5-minute, it is pulling back a little bit, but I feel like that it could have a pretty good run. You know, we had that big move the other day up to 1425. And it looks like on the daily chart, like I said, it's usually all over the place. So hopefully we can keep up with that nice green momentum.
I don't know about you, Tom, but this one kind of reminds me of like BKKT because the ticker and then like how volatile it is. Like I know this is BKKT is the stock that was running up with like MasterCard and crypto and stuff like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of something like that as well. And, you know, it's going to be a very volatile, lower price stock. So it's going to go all over the place. Like we can see, BKKT was looking pretty good there for like 5 trading days. And now it just hit that big upper resistance and it's starting to come back down. I feel like at some point BT will start to come back down too, but hopefully it keeps up with that momentum. It looks like the last time we had a big run, the stock went from like $4.40 all the way up to $20. And I'm not saying it's going to run like that again, but hopefully we get at least just a couple of green days.
Gotcha. All right, we have George saying BNGO seems to finally be breaking the downtrend. So there we go. It's a genomic stock, and it's popping up pretty well. Speaking of genomic stocks, I was strongly eyeing ARKG, which is Kathy's ARK, the ARK genomic ETF. I feel like it's, you know, it's not my favorite play in the world, but I feel like it's nice to have in your portfolio just to be a part of the, I guess you could say, the industry.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying the genomic revolution coming to healthcare. So I guess we're going to see definitely a lot of good stuff over the next 10 years. I know that this is a sector that is definitely set to pop off. There's been lots of videos and stuff about it. And I've honestly been eyeing up both stocks, Mike, ARKG and BNGO both. And honestly, I feel like with BNGO, it's starting to bounce off support, and I'm kind of on the fence about buying this one. You know, it's very low price, it's risky. There's a lot of it's going to be another one of those plays with a high risk reward ratio, but in the end, I feel like the BNGO could end up doing pretty good. Like I said, it's not my favorite stock. ARKG is going to be a lot safer than this one will, but this one could have a pretty good potential to go up. And it kind of reminds me of Corsair and a lot of these other stocks just consolidating around support. And if it starts moving like the rest of the growth stocks, I'll love it.
Yep. All right, we have Spacely saying, good morning, hit that like button, OCGN, $16 soon. So, yeah, if you guys could hit that like button, it would help us out so much. It takes like 2 seconds, and we would greatly appreciate it. But Tom, let's take a look at OCGN. It is up 9% today, and it's on a pretty good uptrend. Just one thing to be really careful about is that implied volatility is going through the roof. So you're going to pay a lot for those options. But, besides that, it's really uptrending.
Yeah, it's really having a nice past few weeks here, and I'm really liking the way it's moving. So if you want to play some quick day trades on it, feel free. If you're able to scalp it and you know what you're doing and you're able to calculate your risk and stuff like that correctly, I feel like you could have some pretty good opportunities on this one. It seems like it's been a multi-day runner, and it looks like it's running again today. Not sure how high we're going to get. Yesterday, we ran from around $13, you could just say, up to like $14.30. So today, we opened around like $14.25 down there at the low. I mean, I would say we could maybe hit $16 or so.
Yeah, I could see it. It's hard to gauge like the momentum of certain stocks, like especially when they're running like this. Like, Tesla just went on a crazy uptrend, and it's really hard to like gauge like tops or anything like that. And speaking of Tesla, they're coming right back up. They're really just exploding, Tom. And I know the news with Elon today definitely wasn't good, but at the same time, like it wasn't horrible news. It's not like Elon said, "Oh, the deal's canceled." He just said, it hasn't been signed yet.
Yeah, that's all he did. That's all he came out and said, and it's still a pretty good deal in the end. It's always good to see this type of talk, anyways. And I feel like that in the end, this deal will probably end up going through. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, unless there was some very strange, some very strange like circumstances or maybe time constraints or something, maybe something like that. But in the end, I feel like Tesla is moving very well today. It's coming right back up, and obviously it hurt the stock in pre-market, but I think that Tesla's kind of showing it's kind of shrugging this news off in a way.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with you. Look at the way it's moving. Look at that volume coming in. So it's so hard to bet against Tesla, because I know a lot of people were mentioning Tesla puts yesterday, and like you look at the chart and you're like, yeah, like it probably should pull back, but Tesla's just it's a different beast, like it's down. Well, now it's down 1% today. It was down a couple percent earlier, but there's just so much buying pressure that just floods in, where it's really hard to bet against it. And if we look at Tesla right now, you have to be extremely careful playing options on it at this point. Like I know over like the past couple weeks or the past month or so, I know some traders just banked off of Tesla because it went from 800 up to 1200. But at this point, implied volatility is already high, and now you're going to be the one paying for those expensive options. So like, for example, for the options chain that expires this week, right now the puts, the at the money puts are up around 20%, but the out of the money puts are basically, most of them are in the red, and the calls are basically all in the red. So the problem is, even if you do get the direction correctly, you have to be like at the money, and at the money options on Tesla cost like anywhere from like $2,500 to like $3,500
for this week.
Yes, for this week.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty high. I haven't even looked at their chain in a while, Mike, because I don't even trade Tesla too much. But wow, that's pretty crazy to hear that it's that much just for this week. And I know that they're always expensive, and I always see people, going. That's the main thing that I see having, I think, the biggest negative effect on options traders with Tesla is that the options are so expensive that traders are going so far out of the money to get some cheap options. Like they'll go, I know that like right now, I'm sure they're going to like 1,300 on the calls or 1,400. And, I'm sure that they're just trying to get options that are cheaper. But in the end, the options market, every stock has like their chain, and it's all priced differently. So, obviously a volatile stock like Tesla, the options are going to be pretty expensive. Same thing with the stock like Amazon. But if we go to a stock like Walmart, for example, it's generally pretty cheap because of how slow of a mover they are. Like Tesla is flying from 800 to 1,200 within a week, but Walmart is moving from 148 to 150 in a week. So it's a very slow mover.
Exactly. And back on the subject of Tesla really quickly, looking at their pricing for the options, we could see that the 1,300 strike calls for this week still cost $1,000. Like that's
wow.
Crazy. The stock's not even at $1,200 right now. And for this week, the 1,300 strike call still costs $1,000, and then you go out to 1,400, and it'll cost you like around $350 or so. But Like you said, Tom, like I feel like a lot of these retail traders are, especially newer traders, are just going so far out of the money where they need Tesla up like 40% in a week just to break even.
Yeah, exactly. And they're trying to just play a move of highs. Like they might be looking at it saying, well, Tesla might break 1220 and then run up to 1250 and I'll take a quick gain there. But in the end, you're just getting such a bad priced option that it might go up a little bit there if you're getting something that expires really, really soon and you're getting something close enough to the money. But in the end, it's always just a really big gamble and it's going to be really tough. Tesla's just a tough stock. There's lots of other ones though that are priced a lot better, like NIO and stocks like that. And talking about NIO, they're actually exploding up pretty well today, Mike, up 2%. And it looks like they're starting to really move away from this $40 support.
Gotcha. Well, that's pretty good. I know they struggled a little bit, what was it, yesterday in pre-market, but I know NIO is kind of like Corsair and Disney in the fact that it's been consolidating for quite some time, but I think that's a good one to keep on your radar for sure, and I do like them.
Yeah, and they're starting to get some momentum. So if they start to pop off, it could always be pretty good. And if Tesla keeps going up, it might be a good sympathy play. So if you guys are looking at Tesla running up and you're like, well, all I can get is bad priced options, maybe NIO or some other of these EV stocks that might go up with it might be another good way to go at it. And don't just buy it if Tesla's going up, because if Tesla has some good news or something, obviously that's going to make their stock and probably their stock alone go up. But in the end, some of these other stocks generally follow them.
All right. So there we go. Let us know what stocks you guys are watching. We can definitely take a look at them. So far this morning, I am doing a quick scan to see what's hot. It looks like Microsoft is looking pretty good. Oh, wow, Tom, Boeing totally reversed. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I did not, but this is not a good thing to see. I know that initial run was looking pretty strong and not good to see a reversal there. I wonder how the overall market's looking, and it looks like the SPY is actually holding up. So, yeah, Boeing's just coming back down. It's just definitely a crazy move there. I thought that once they broke that high of yesterday, they might get a pretty good run.
Yeah. And I'm also looking at Chgg again. Like, they're getting destroyed. Like, I was thinking about selling some puts on them. I still might, but I think I'm just going to hold off for, like, maybe a day or two with Chgg. It's down, I know we covered this earlier, but, it's down 41%. Generally, it's pretty good to sell puts and setups like these because you can get a really low strike. IV's high, but, looking at the chart, it looks like this thing might continue for a little bit.
Yeah, this is getting scary. And looks like we're actually breaking that support around $40, which whenever you gap from 60 down to 40, I mean, man, this is just not good. Not good news at all. Honestly, it kind of filled this gap. You can see on the daily chart, there was a gap fill that actually just happened. We had a big gap from back in April of 2020, and it looks like we actually just filled that gap back to the downside. And, lots of people always say those gaps are going to get filled eventually. And man, it took a long time, but it looks like it ended up playing out this time. And I would say definitely eye up some good supports. We just broke 40, so use that as a good resistance now. And I would say that for the longer term, there's a pretty big support right around $30.
I'm looking at some of these options on Chgg. I'm looking at the 40 strike put for November. Yesterday, that was trading for $8. Today's trading for $485.
Wow, that's $4 to $485.
So $8 to now $500 in a day, Tom.
Man, and it keeps going up as we're talking, doesn't it?
Exactly. That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, some other stocks that are moving. We actually have Coinbase still running to the upside. It's not looking bad, I know with increased crypto transactions because of Bitcoin running up, that's pretty good. And I know that their IPO was kind of overhyped, so it is good to see them popping back.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see them coming back, actually. And I was actually eyeing them up a lot down here around these supports. I know Hunter was actually calling out some pretty good cash secure puts in the Discord chat, and it was moving pretty good there. I know that they were right around that 225 support, and they bounced a lot off of that. I feel like the Coinbase was a pretty good opportunity to buy a pretty good company low there. And I feel like a lot of people missed the dip on this one. And I'm really glad to see them coming back. And I feel like that they're not going to go anywhere in the longer term. Crypto probably isn't going anywhere. Even if they try to ban it or something, I feel like there will still be even ways to work around that even. And it's just too integrated now. Like some people have said that even if some bad news or something comes out with countries banning it and stuff, they never can actually fully do it because of how integrated it's actually become. So we'll just have to see. But I feel like that they're a pretty good company. Hard to buy them after they just went up this much, but I feel like they're still pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I'm just looking at a couple different stocks right now. Neo is leading my watch list. Baidu is leading it to the downside, unfortunately. These China stocks have been struggling a lot over the past week or so, but in the past month they're looking pretty good though. Yeah, I mean we covered most of the big movers today. Another one that's running up is Zoom, like you have pointed on your chart right now. It's up like 2%, and we're getting really close to a breakout.
Yeah, we are actually. There's a pretty good intraday resistance here. I'll actually draw it out on the chart really quick. Right here, you can see where we double top last week or maybe the week before, but you can see that there's kind of a range going on here. We have a range between like 275 and an upper level of like 286.50 or 287. And it looks like we're actually hitting off of that right now. So if we see a nice bounce up through that, I feel like we could get a nice break to the upside. And we can see on Zoom's daily chart, Mike, I know we talked a little bit about those gaps on the daily charts here a minute ago, but they actually had a pretty bad gap to the downside. Zoom did over the past couple months, and I feel like that with the momentum we're having right now, if we start to see a nice breakout, who knows? I feel like we might start to fill that gap over the next couple months.
I can see it for sure. A lot of growth stocks are kind of like recovering back up, and I feel like Zoom's overdue for one because let's not forget, like they had a huge sell-off on their recent earnings, and they actually reported good earnings. It's just like their outlook was kind of bad, but all in all, they're still making some pretty good money.
Yeah, they really are. I really like their company for the long term. And people have always said, well, Zoom's going to do worse with COVID going away. And, that makes sense. But, they're very integrated. And of course, they went down for a few months, like 6 to 7 months there with COVID kind of going away. And I know COVID's still around in a sense, but, people are getting back into person and stuff like that. And I feel like Zoom's honestly holding up pretty well. Like they're holding support good and they're going up while a lot of these other growth stocks are going up. So I feel like that if they have a good next earnings report or something, they could end up doing pretty good. And I know that they fell down on their last earnings and they actually beat pretty good. You can see that they had a 0.817 estimate and they had a 1.36 actual EPS. They beat pretty good. They just had a bad outlook for the future. But I feel like as long as their EPS holds up pretty well, they won't go anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah. All right, so we have George saying Open is tanking along with Z. Redfin is doing less bad. They also have earnings later this week. So great point. Like we look at Zillow, Open, or Redfin, or like really anything to do with, I guess you can say like real estate type stocks. They're definitely taking a beating today. Zillow, like I said, down nearly 10%. It's looking pretty rough. And then, like you said, Open. It looks like the uptrend on Open is just getting destroyed, Tom. Like it was looking really good over like the past 2 months, and today is just like it's killing the momentum.
Man, I was honestly not expecting to see a move like this with everything starting to break out lately. I was looking for this stock to possibly have a big pop up through this $25 resistance, but unfortunately, we saw the exact opposite happen. They had a big turn to the downside. This is always the risk whenever you're trying to play these breakouts like this. And man, that's really unfortunate to see with Open Door. It's definitely not a good thing to see their stock moving down this much heading into earnings even. And hopefully earnings do good so that they can turn around. But I feel like that was a pretty bad move off resistance right there.
Yeah, and then Redfin's holding up a little bit, but like George said, they do have earnings later in the week. So definitely we'll keep an eye on these ones. George said RKT also popped the last couple of days, but today it's down as well. Yeah, everything to do with like real estate, or I guess you could say like things in the industry with real estate are definitely struggling today. Rocket's down like 2.5%, which isn't a ton. Like it's not as much as Open or Zillow, but then again, RKT has just been struggling over the past year.
Yeah, they really have. RKT has been really just kind of consolidating around this bottom resistance around like, you could say like $16.50 to $17 a share. Unfortunately, they just keep like bouncing off of this and then just kind of staying right around here. So hopefully they can get up in the longer term, but in the shorter term, I know that they've been pretty rough. I know that they went up with that AMC and GameStop hype a while ago though, For some reason, they were one of those hyped up companies, but hopefully they can start to get up here in the longer term. I feel like that over the next like 5 years, the company will do pretty good. But in the short term, like over the next year or so, I honestly have no idea. They've just been going all over the place down here. So I would honestly just expect them to maybe stay within the range of like $15 and $25.
Gotcha. Let's check back in on the Trump SPAC stock. I know it had a ton of momentum. What was it, 2 weeks ago? Yeah, like 2 weeks ago now. It looks like it's definitely selling off. It just had so much hype, like it seems like most of these SPAC stocks go through like a crazy hype phase and then just kind of like settle down. So I'm curious to see where this stock will like hold its ground at. Like for example, we had Corsair holding its ground around 25 or so. I'm curious if DWAC is just going to linger around 60, or if it's going to linger around 40 or 30 or 20. Like who knows?
Yeah, I'm really curious as well. Like I'm honestly eyeing it up for the longer term. I feel like over the next like few years, it could end up being good if we see some good stuff come out about it. It's a pretty risky one to me. Whatever you throw into this stock, I feel like definitely act like, you're going to lose that money. Like I would definitely not be going all in with this one by any means. But I feel like that for the next few years, it has a pretty decent chance to pop given what we've heard so far about it, I guess. And I feel like that it'll just be okay. But with the way they're going down, I'm definitely going to be waiting for it to maybe start to form a support somewhere or start to really consolidate. And then I might eye them up a little bit harder.
Gotcha. All right. So we have Robin saying, NVIDIA keeps breaking all-time highs. It is such a powerhouse. And honestly, I missed this one big time. I've been really wanting to buy into this one. But like I look at like the max weekly chart, I'm like, I don't want to buy in now with NVIDIA. But, they're a solid company. Their stock has been exploding. I really want to get into them, but, I'm waiting for that dip, and it may never happen with the way it's trending now. It's just, it's exploding.
Yeah, it really is exploding. You just can't go wrong with these types of chip companies. And these companies are just set to explode over the next few years, too. Like, I know that they're already up at new all-time highs now. They're probably going to pull back and go up and down a lot. But I feel like that for the next 5 to 10 years, lots of people have been saying that the best sectors to get in are going to be these growth sectors like the solar stocks, the chip stocks, anything that has to do with like technology and stuff pretty much. So I feel like that these stocks are awesome. I love NVIDIA. They do great stuff for AI. And even though they're at new highs now, I feel like that for the next few years, they're still going to end up going up. And, I could be wrong, but I feel like they're just powerhouses. I know Intel has been talking a lot about making their own graphics cards as well. And they've been getting a little bit of a boost back up. But either way, if Intel comes out with some great products, that could possibly hurt NVIDIA. But keep in mind, the chances of them coming out with something as good as NVIDIA's stuff is probably pretty low. So I feel like NVIDIA is just awesome. Them and AMD are obviously powerhouses, and you just almost can't go wrong with them over the past couple of years.
All right. One stock I want to highlight really quickly is Teledoc. So this stock had an amazing reversal on earnings last week. It's lingering right around that like 150 level, and I'm really eyeing it for a breakout. I feel like it's a pretty good setup, but the risk here, in my opinion, is like a fake breakout and then like a slow continuation down. In their last earnings report, they had the same exact pattern where they initially dropped on earnings, they rallied and like recovered back up, and then they slowly faded down over like the next couple of weeks. So that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I feel like that could definitely happen here too. And it's just, I hope that it doesn't happen though. These stocks have been really consolidating, and I'm really hoping that they can just get some nice pops back to the upside, especially like with stocks like Teledoc with the earnings and getting that big turnaround. I'd really like to see them go back up to maybe some of these resistances like 175 or even maybe 200 over the next few months.
Yep. All right, let's do a check-in with Corsair really quickly. They are up like 2.5% on the day. At one point, they were up over 7%, and they were looking great, but sellers came back in and drove this one down. It's good that they're up. It's just I wish they were, back at like 26 or so.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. And I'm just glad to see them up a little bit. With the way they went down in pre-market with earnings and everything, it's never a good sign to see that, but I'm really glad to see them coming back up, kind of like what we saw with a few of these other earnings plays over the past few weeks where they dropped and then got a nice pop. I really hope that as long as this support around 25 holds up for the next couple of weeks, I feel like we could end up having a pretty good move back to the upside with Corsair, but it's going to really be hard over the next few days. I think this support's going to be pretty hard to hold up.
Yeah. All right. So we have George saying BNGO is now up 12%, earnings in 3 days. Exact same thing with OCGN. So it's popping. It's one of those stocks where it can definitely go parabolic, and OCGN's kind of the same way. So again, like we talked about, it's in that genomics sector, and I know there's a lot of hype with it too. So it's not bad for like short-term playing. And Tom, like you said, like maybe even like a long-term hold, it probably won't be too bad.
Yeah, if you just grab some shares like here around $6, I think you're getting it at a pretty good price too. Like you're pretty close to the support around $5, which has been holding up pretty well. And I feel like for the long term, it's going to be risky as hell though. Like if you buy it here, I mean, definitely be prepared to maybe be down 50% in 3 months. If they have some bad news or something come out, it could definitely end up getting hurt. But I feel like that with the way it's popping and with all the hype and stuff behind these genomics plays, I feel like this one's a good way to go. Obviously, if I had $10,000, I'd probably put $8,000 on ARKG and $2,000 on BNGO. If you wanted to know any of my thinkings, like scenarios like that. But either way, I feel like that ARKG is going to be a lot safer. But BNGO, I feel like has a really good shot to make a killing. I feel like they could go from $6 if this pops off the way people are talking about. I would not be surprised to see him at $12 by, maybe like the middle of next year or something. But keep in mind, it's going to have some really good news and a lot of momentum.
Yeah. Like I know that one of my concerns with BNGO specifically, and why I personally would basically just let's say I said, you know what, I have $10,000 to invest into the genomics sector, right? Or industry, you can say. I know Tom mentioned maybe $8,000 in ARKG and $2,000 in BNGO. It's just it's not the leader of the industry, which means, like Tom said, it's definitely risky, right? Tom said it's risky as hell, which is 100% true. But at the same time, the stock can easily 10 or 20x. So it's just something to keep in mind that it is a risky play. There's a decent chance that this stock can just tank down and go to zero. But then again, I'm sure people can make the same argument to me about, well, Mike, if you think the sports betting sector is going to, or industry is going to explode, and online gambling and all that stuff, why don't you buy an ETF like BETZ, right? Instead of just, focusing on DraftKings. So I guess everyone has their own opinion, but it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like if you guys really like this sector, trust your gut. I feel like BNGO could be pretty good. And if you like the stock and you've been doing your research, I feel like it could have a pretty good chance to pop. So, like Mike said, everyone has their sectors that they're biased towards. We obviously like DraftKings quite a bit. And we actually haven't talked too much about DraftKings today. And it looks like they are kind of pulling back again today, sadly. I know yesterday was looking pretty good, and now today they're kind of losing that momentum.
Yep, unfortunately. All right, so we have Shelly saying, good morning. Thoughts on Wish? Is this a good entry point? So let's take a look at it. Wish, in my opinion, no. I mean, it's a volatile stock. So it can easily double, but the problem is you look at the chart over the past year, and it's just been making lower and lower lows. And yes, it can pop, but is it worth the risk is the question. And to me, it's not. I feel like your money would be much better invested into Corsair or DraftKings or Palantir, or you could say Teledoc, Boeing, Disney, Run, Chewy, Redfin. There's so many out there, So it can pop, but in my opinion, it's just not worth the risk with Wish.
Yeah, it's really not for me either. And like you said, it's just been really going down a lot. And even over the past few weeks, it's been kind of, consolidating, but mostly going down. And, we can see even these other stocks, we'll just even bring up BNGO again. They've been consolidating and holding their ground pretty well. Corsair has been holding their ground pretty well. But, we have Wish starting to just really break off and keep breaking support after support. So that's my main reason. I really think that with how low of a price they are, they could have a chance to pop back up maybe to some of these resistance levels, $7 or so, but it's going to be super risky, I feel like. And I know I talked about like BNGO being a little bit risky too. I feel like Wish is even way riskier than that even.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I agree 100%. So looking at some of the plays for today, we basically covered all of the hot stocks. Zoom's pulling back a little bit. How's Fastly doing?
Man, it was actually moving very well, and it just had a huge pullback to the downside, unfortunately. Hopefully this support around $50 ends up holding up, but I will say it looked like a pretty good it was having a lot of momentum, especially early on today, and it just started to really pull back here. So hopefully $50 ends up holding up.
Yep, you know it. So, we have George saying Penn and DraftKings have earnings later this week. Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to that DraftKings earnings, and I know that, like you said, George, Penn does have earnings as well. I'm just looking for something to bring the momentum back. DraftKings was on such an amazing uptrend. What was that? Now like a month and a half ago, but I'm just waiting for that momentum to be back.
Yeah, me too. And they had, like you said, that momentum was really strong. They were running from $43 all the way up to $65 there over that like month uptrend. It was just a really nice move. Now we're starting to really pull back and consolidate. And I will say, Mike, these earnings are starting to really scare me here. Like I'm looking at the earnings and we're sitting right on this long-term trend line. And with us being this close to this trend line, I feel like that if the earnings go south, it could start to really gap down here. But I feel like if the earnings go well, we could get a humongous move. I feel like that whatever happens here, DraftKings might have a pretty decent sized move out of it. So I would definitely keep it on the radar. And let's cross our fingers that maybe the baseball playoffs or maybe football starting or something helped them this quarter.
Tom, check out a daily chart on CAR.
CAR. Let's check it out. Oh my gosh, Mike, what is this? Avis Budget Group. I've heard of this actually, but they're up 83%, $143 today. What is going on?
Wow. I'm looking at this chart and over the past year it went from 28 to 315. It's halted right now. They are running off of some pretty awesome earnings. They're like a rental car company and they are just exploding.
Man, those earnings came in way higher than expected. They were expected to get a $6.89 EPS, and they came in at $10.74, almost doubled it. And that's a huge EPS too, up there around $10. Like, man, that's a really nice thing to see. And this company was already uptrending too, and it just had a huge boost again. Like, man, this company this year is up like 300%.
I'm like in awe, like looking at this chart, like it's crazy. The options on this stock yesterday, the 260 strike calls for November 19th were trading for $105 each. Right now they're going for over 8,000. That is crazy in one day. Wow.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane. Can you imagine just being like the random person who decided to play the earnings on that one and it flies up this much? Like, talk about a payday. That's a really big move, man. Cannot believe we're up 83%. And the crazier thing to me, Mike, is that I know that we've been going up ever since market open, but the bigger moves started coming in over the past like 30 minutes or so. As you can see here, it was kind of slow around market open and we got some huge candles come in here.
Yeah, I'm like looking at some of the order flow on this one, and I wasn't able to confirm it just yet, but it looks like there was a lot of money entered into, or I don't want to say a lot of money, but it looks like there was a decent amount of money entered into the 260 strike calls on October 28th. When these options were trading for like around $110 each, and it looks like they're locking in profits right now. In the I guess you could say $1,000 to $8,000 range. So I don't know what went on there, but it looks like there might have been a little insider trading activity.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. I mean, can you imagine this move? Like, could you imagine having the information and almost not doing something? Like, like if you knew that they were going to report that good, like, wow, that's a crazy move. And hopefully whoever it is doesn't end up getting caught because it seems like a pretty big trade,
Jeez. I'm sure they will. I mean, like I said, we don't even know if it was insider trading, but it's very suspicious to have, thousands of contracts being bought on this stock that are so far out of the money, especially ahead of earnings. So I don't know. I don't know, but it's definitely interesting, and it's a crazy move. They're halted right now, and I'm curious to see how they move after the halt. Corsair's coming back down. We have Alex saying crazy indeed. Don't even have options that high. Yeah, it's pretty insane. I'm trying to see what else is moving. Zillow's still tanking. A lot of stocks are kind of losing their momentum, to be honest. Like Boeing down, Zillow down, QS is down. What do you think of QS?
QS, QuantumScape. We actually haven't talked about these guys in a few days, but looks like they are turning down pretty drastically. Kind of reminds me of a lot of these other growth stocks. Like we've been seeing a lot of them starting to pop up a lot lately, and now today they're starting to actually pull back a little bit. Like I know QuantumScape's coming down. I'm trying to think of like some other ones that are kind of moving like this. Let me go on my watch list really quick. Like you can see like BLNK is one that's kind of been moving like that. Enphase is another one. And it seems like a lot of them are coming down. So I don't know. It's just a really crazy day. And I really hope that these stocks start to get back up there. Like it just seems like you said, everything's starting to really lose its momentum, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Tom, like what stocks are you watching for the rest of the day? Like there's not really too much action in the market today. Of course we have that crazy CAR news, but besides that, most of like the go-to stocks aren't really doing anything. They're not tanking, but they're not exploding either. So, like, do you have any last-minute stocks or anything for the rest of the day?
I'm still going to be eyeing up Zoom. I know they had a pretty good day. They are starting to pull back now a little bit right at that resistance, of course, but I feel like that they're doing pretty good. Some other stocks that are moving decently right now are JP Morgan and some of the banks. They're starting to actually get some nice moves to the upside. So maybe the banks will be a good sector to trade today if you guys are looking for some more plays later on. I know Plug is kind of pulling back and a few stocks like that right now. So definitely be a little careful with those. I feel like that with how much we've been going up lately, they have a pretty good chance to maybe consolidate for a couple of days. So be a little careful there. And I'm also just going to bring up this earnings chart really quick. Maybe we can go over some earnings later tonight. I know Zillow reports today after close. That's going to be pretty big. T-Mobile probably going to be pretty big too. ATVI, which is Activision, might actually be pretty big. Let's go check out ATVI. I know that lots of people like that new Call of Duty game, and it looks like Activision is kind of consolidating. So hopefully the earnings go well, and hopefully they have a good outlook with the new game coming out, because I feel like that with them falling like this over the past few months, if this game goes well, they would have a pretty good chance to recover back. I know EA has been doing pretty good with all the Battlefield news. So hopefully ATVI does good with earnings tonight. I know they're coming up after close. Do you have any, Mike, that you like any more than others?
I'll definitely have my eyes on Fastly and CVS for tomorrow. And you already know what DraftKings, but that's later in the week. I'm just looking at the list right now. Yeah, I would say for tomorrow, it's definitely going to be CVS and Fastly.
Wow, it looks like Nikola even reports this week. We got the fakers out here even still reporting earnings. But yeah, these are the earnings this week, guys, if you guys want to take a screenshot or something. But yeah, that's pretty much. I'm going to be eyeing up Activision today and after hours.
There we go. So pretty interesting stuff there. I'm just curious if CAR unhalted. Oh my, Tom. This thing
$360.
Wow. Now it's up 110%. Before the halt, it was up like 80 something percent. So this is just crazy. Like,
yeah, it is. It reminds me of DWAC the other day while it was going crazy.
Yeah, you got to be careful with it though, because now what's going to happen is everyone's going to see, all right, this stock is up 110% today. What's stopping it from going up 300% today? And then they're going to buy in, and then they're going to get screwed over. So, in my opinion, if you're not in now, it's not worth getting in. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I feel like most of the move already happened. So, I don't know if you disagree with that or anything.
No, I would actually totally agree. I feel like that the move is definitely already at least partly over. Like, of course, we might go up to 400 a share or 420 or whatever, but I feel like that in the end, the move already happened mostly. And we saw the same thing with DWAC. If we go back to their chart from a few days ago, let's go to the 90-day, 15-minute. You can see they had that one really good day where they went up like 300%. Then the next day, they had that one big move, and then all these halts started happening and the stock started falling down. So I feel like that we could start to see the same thing happening here with CAR.
Yeah, I mean, like, with CAR right now it's at 360. It definitely can go up to 400. It can go up to 430. But is it worth the risk? And to me, it's not. So, and I would say for most people, it shouldn't be. But all in all, thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. Not too much action happening today besides CAR and a couple other stocks. So thank you guys so much for joining, and have an amazing rest of your day.